Now we're going to have a looking at the number guess challenge. So for this challenge, there's certain rules that we're going to be following. So one, a random number should be generated. The user should be able to enter their guess. The number should be checked to see if the guess matches the stored number, and the game ends when the number is guessed correctly. So when the user enters the number and it's the same as the random number, then the game ends. So just using the trinket.io. So the first thing we're going to want is we're going to want to import random. So from random import randint. Okay, so if we run that, we can see that that's been entered correctly, because if it doesn't, so if I did this wrong, you get an error. So you can run it straight at the start to check that this first bit is right. So from random, so that is the directory that we're going to, is random. We're importing randint, so that is random, and then int is integer, so random number. Now let's say we want random number. Now of course you can call your variables whatever you want. I'm going to call it random number just so that you can see what I'm writing. Always good practice to write a capital for the first word and a capital for the second word, just so that you can see what there is there. Now some people do use the underscores. They're okay, but if for example you happen to put 2 underscores by accident, it could then ruin your variable. So actually it's easier just to put random number and then capital capital, so you can actually read the word still quite clearly. So this one is, we're going to say randint, and just for this one we're going to say, let's say 1 to 3, and then let's just check that that works. So let's print number. So it's good just to check that you are working your way through the program, and just check it as you go, because otherwise you get all the way to the end and then you end up with like 6 or 7 errors and you can't tell where those errors are. So best to just quality check your program as you go, because if I had an error here I would see it already. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this, and I'm just going to say 1. I'm going to actually get rid of random number completely. I'm actually just going to put 1 here. Okay, so if I then print random number, now the reason I'm just putting a 1 there is because it means that I can actually quality check my program as I'm going through without having to actually guess a random number between 1 and 3. So we can actually check to see if it's working. So this is something that's quite popular when people are designing these programs, because you don't want to be trying to guess that random number every time. You just want to be able to check it, and it means that you know what result it should be. So I should be able to enter 1 in a minute, and it should end the program. It should say, you know, that is correct, because it is the same, because I know what this should be. So it means that I can actually check and validate that the information is right. So let's say the user guess equals, and then this is going to be an input, and guess number. Okay, so we can do that. So it's going to ask, try and guess the number, but if we enter anything in there, obviously it's not going to do anything because we haven't written any more of our code. So we've got user guess and then the input so far. Now from some of the previous videos you'll notice that if you don't put int here, it saves the user guess automatically as a string, and a string and an int can't be compared together. Okay, it won't compare them together in the same way. So by storing this as an int, it means that I can actually tell this that this is a number, so this is an integer. Now what we're going to do is if user guess is equal to, so remember there's 2 equal signs, okay? 1, as you can see here on this line, means it's a variable, so user guess equals whatever this is. If you do 2, it means equal to, so if it is equal to something, so if it's equal to random number, do the colon, and then you're going to tell it what to do if it is the same. So print, well done, you have guess the number. Okay. Now that's okay, but we need the other part of this, so we need an else here. Now it's important to remember that else doesn't actually need, like you're not going to write user guess, because you'll end up with an error. Else basically means any other value. So if it's anything else, then it will do this basically. So print that isn't the number. Okay. So if we run this, just see what I've done here. Bracket. Let's see what else I've missed. Bad input. So if user guess equals random number. Ah, that's me there. So as you can see, it threw up an error here, but actually the error's on this line, because what I've got is I've got a bracket here, but I haven't got a bracket to end that one. So sometimes just look at the line above and you'll actually see that the error's there. Now if I put 56 for example, sorry that isn't the number. If I put 1 though, well done, you have guessed the number. So, you know, that's the very basic first part of it, but it's not very good if it's not actually repeating, because, you know, if the person hasn't got the number, then it's not particularly helpful, is it? So, what we will do is we're going to put in another section here. So let's add a while, and we can use another function. So while user guess, and this time we're going to do exclamation mark. Okay, now this one basically means not equal to. So the exclamation mark basically changes this into a not statement, so it is not equal to user guess. So what it will do is it will allow us to repeat this for as long as this isn't. Now, little tip, if you select all of this and then push tab, it tabs it all across in one go, so you don't have to tab each line individually. Now here, user guess is not defined. So you'll see that there's an error here, and part of that error is because we're trying to call a variable here, but the variable isn't written till here. So a way to get around that is you just type user guess, like so, equals, and then we can just say it just equals nothing. Okay, so it has no value at the moment. And get rid of that one. Okay, so while not equal to random number, so try and guess the number. So let's say 45. Sorry, that isn't the number. So it's written that for us, and then it's asked us to guess again. So it will keep doing this until we eventually enter the right number. Now, of course, at the moment, if someone enters an incorrect value, you end up with an error. So what you can do is you can also add a try. So what you can do is you can actually type try here, tab this across because it's going to try all this. So it's going to try this, and then if I did accept, and just put something there, error with your input. So let's try that one. So if I wrote something else in there, it basically protects your program, okay? Because you don't want it to crash. Because like you saw before, when I accidentally hit comma or something like that, it just crashes. So what this does is it will read through here, it tries this first. If that's successful, it will run this. If there's an error, it will run this. So it means that you can very quickly have your program running. So try and guess the number, so let's put 45. So it's accepted that, because that's a valid input, if the user, and then there. So it's working quite well at the moment. So have a go at sort of creating that at the moment. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll leave that one as it is there. Try and create that, and see if you can get this to run correctly. Make sure that you follow each of these steps carefully. Okay, and pay attention to some of the errors that I have left in this video so that you can see exactly what I have done and how I have fixed it. Okay, because it's important that you check your code at each stage, because it could be as simple as you've left out a bracket or you've added a space in a variable. So always make sure that you're going back through your code and just checking to make sure that it is correct. And then in the next video we will have a look at how to make this into a better number guessing game.